Okay, bienvenidos, bienvenido. Welcome to the IDC Dockers Podcast on the Waterfront, and where we met our people, our struggles, our different information that we have. And today, it's a beautiful day, as you can see here in New Zealand, in Wellington. And I want to introduce our brother Paul Keating, our Oceania Zoom coordinator of IDC, and also the Sydney branch secretary of the MUA. He's a tireless worker, a commitment worker with a lot of political issues. He's one of the real men that you can call 24 hours a day. So the 7 days of the week. I think it's the man in my life that more hours I speak with him. And more than that, is my friend. So I want first to thanks and good morning, Paul, and thanks for accepting the invitation to this interview.
Well, what can I say? We are, one of my closest friends and a true comrade. And it's great being here in New Zealand and catching up again. You're one of our great leaders of the Dockers movement. And I wouldn't want to be in the ditch, as we say, with any other comrade but you. We're here with MUNS, the Maritime Union in New Zealand, building international solidarity and growing the Dockers movement.
Yeah, like you always do. But let's start for the beginning. When do you start to work as a wharfie, as a dock worker?
Yeah, well, I started on the Waterfront in January 2000. So I was a younger worker, but not all that young. I was 32 when I got on the Waterfront. And it certainly was the best thing that ever happened to me. As we say, the best thing about the industry is our union. Our union has given me everything. It's given my family everything. It's given our members everything. Dignity of work is so important because it gives us that dignity of life.
And you come from an Irish family that came from Liverpool to Sydney. Yeah. It's a beautiful history to know.
It's a proud history. We come from a proud Liverpool Irish community. Very much the story of the Irish is the story of Liverpool. Like many millions now that connect to their heritage of Irish background. My family's no different. We came to Liverpool through the Irish famine. And if those that don't know, 1.3 million Irish came through Liverpool and then moved across the world. And when I say across the world, it was to every continent. It was down here in Australia and New Zealand. It was across to the Americas, north and south. It's very important to understand. And throughout the world, because that famine took away our country, our dignity, our families. But with that, we built very strong communities, and communities where we believe in fighting for what's ours and fighting for that dignity. So my story, my Irish family story of Liverpool is the same as every other's, which we are enormously proud of, and we built very strong communities. And in the mid-70s, my parents came over to Australia, which, quite frankly, my family's been coming over for 100 years. So we've made our lives here and been on the Australian waterfront, given that my own family in Liverpool was on the docks of Liverpool and seafarers, through the ages on both sides of my family. It's a very proud history.
You're very proud, very proud. And at the same time that you start to work on the wharf, as a wharfie, you start to work as a union delegate. How is this process to arrive to be Oceania Zone Coordinator of IDC and branch secretary of the Sydney branch of the mighty MUA?
Well, it's something that, you know, in my life, my growing up, trade unionism was everything to my parents. You know, they were active, they were proud, staunch trade unionists, and they were political. So, you know, getting on the waterfront, it's important to give back as workers. I was very fortunate. The older members, the delegates, you know, they mentor young workers. So I was one of those workers that, you know, I was mentored. Bobby Lee's here, you know, stalwart of our union, you know, national president of the veterans. Well, I was mentored by Bobby and many other comrades. And from there, you know, what you do is you cut your teeth. You put your hand up on the job, on the shift, and, you know, the workers either vote you in or they don't vote you in as the delegate. I must have been doing something right because
Sure.
shift after shift and time after time, I would get voted in. And, you know, it's the journey that we as active workers, you know, take ourselves, yourself and all our comrades. And through that process, you know, I always wanted to do more for the union and for my fellow comrades. So I put my hand up, stood for election on the committees in the workplaces, you know, always believing that it's important to be active in our union. The union gave us so much and we have such a history. The MUA and our predecessor unions have this remarkable history of solidarity, of a fighting spirit, of believing that when we find through struggle, we find dignity, it's important that we take it back to our communities and we stand and struggle with our fellow, you know, sisters and brothers in our own communities and more broader, because the working class are across oceans. Our struggles are connected. Our struggles are connected from First Nations peoples all the way through, and it's important that we give back. And that's how I felt. I was very fortunate to be on the waterfront. I felt a great obligation to give back.
Okay, the mighty MUA, and especially you, has a long history of fights. The Patrick dispute, where the MUA was very involved. Hutchinson dispute you were a lot of involved. Cube now, DP World, the CFMU. What do you think? What is the long history of disputes, long history of fight, and long history of fights are coming too?
It is common. I mean, the fact is we live in capitalist systems, capitalist states. So the relationship between the employers class and labour is always going to be at odds. The bosses want more, they want to exploit, and our strength is solidarity. Our strength is being together, being one, and there will never be any peace between capital and labour. As a socialist, committed, I believe firmly in our class, the working class, in our communities, across all oceans. And all I know is that whatever we have built for ourselves as working class men and women in our communities has been through the granite of the exploitation of the ruling class against us. And it's in that history, wherever we're from, we have built dignity ourselves, and it comes with a fight. And as a proud docker, as a proud wharfie, as a proud MUA member, we walk in that tradition because we believe it's the only path that will deliver what we rightfully should have. I don't believe in fair deals. That's the language of the bosses in my view. I believe in what's ours, we need to fight to get. They will never hand it over. we've got to take it.
100%. Let's talk about international solidarity. Which are the steps that you are doing in your zone for strengthening this solidarity? I know that you met last week with the Chinese Union. During these days, we will have some meetings, important meetings with the Japanese Union. Which are the steps that you are doing? You have also in Pakistan, New Guinea, India. You are doing a lot of good job along with Paul Maka. Which are the steps that you are doing?
Well, from the work that we are committed to, the international dockers movement, and for myself as the IDC Asia Oceanic Zone Coordinator, we want to build in our region the connections with dockers, understanding the struggles, and with that building friendship, building solidarity and real comradeship. And with dockers, look, we're dockers, so we know when we come together from every corner of the planet, we're with our family. We have a saying as dockers, and it's said everywhere in the world. We have our own families, and then we have our dockers family. We want to connect with our dockers communities here, and we're very committed to it, from Karachi to Auckland and everything in between. We had this wonderful visit from our friends last week in Sydney from China, the Shandong Provisional Federation of Trade Unions. So a delegation came over. They represent, maritime workers across 7 ports in Shandong. And it's a very important area for the world because the Shandong province is really the engine room of manufacturing for the world. Crucial because of trade, crucial because what manufacturing does to lift communities the world over. And for us as dock workers, as maritime workers, crucial because of us being maritime. We have now for a number of years engaged with communication with our friends in China. Me and you have spoken many a times, and Dennis, about this great vision. We couldn't be happier from our zone with the leadership from Dennis and yourself. Like Macca said today, you're our 2 leaders continuing to build this dockers movement based on the values that are so inherently human. It's the humanity of things that you're driven and Dennis is driven by. And our Chinese sisters and brothers are crucial for the dockers movement. It's a nation with the biggest number of people on the planet for a country. It's the biggest dockers country in the world. And
the factory of the world.
And it's the factory of the world. We want our Chinese dockers to be part of the international dockers movement. So we're very encouraged by it. We've been reciprocated with a visit next year, which will send me and yourself and a delegation from Sydney up there. And we really look forward to establishing those connections that now we're on the path to do. But there's a lot of work. This is a region very much in its infancy when it comes to the IDC. But very much we are committed. And from the MUA's standpoint, we can't build this without our friends from MUNS, who are so much committed into the dockers movement and the IDC, most importantly. We've got friends right through the region, comrades, from Indonesia to Karachi, Pakistan. We've been working closely. Most of this work is this cooperation between yourself and Paul McAleer for the dockers movement. ITF for Macca being the regional dockers coordinator, and yourself heading up the labour coordinator for the global dockers movement. It pays off working hard and persevering. What we do know in this region is that there's many tens of thousands, in fact hundreds of thousands of dockers that are exploited in ways that are unimaginable. And we know, we're motivated to lift up our brothers and sisters and fight the same bosses, the same, ship owners that we work for, that our members work for through the affiliates of the IDC. So there's a lot of work to do. But what I do know is dockers fight, dockers stick together, and the work in this region will be crucial because it's about the universal rights for dockers on safety, on wages and conditions. And together, as is our motto, together we can never fail.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I think that we are now in a key moment for the dockers worldwide. As you know, the big challenge for everybody is the automation. The new technologies that are coming against us as the dock workers, and as you know, and you were part of the big struggle 4 weeks ago in the ILA dispute. People didn't realize that this part of the fight is part of our strategy. So our strategy was first make a study to know exactly what it means, the automation in the ports, which are the intention of the shipping lines, the port operators, the governments. For that reason, we sent a group of researchers to know what is their real intention. And at the end of the study, the real intention was to eliminate us. So some of the shipping lines and port operators still believe that we won't fight. And I met with one of them last week and say, you won't stop this. You can stop this. I say, we are dock workers. We can stop everyone we want. Yeah. So we have been preparing for this, I think, all our lives, because it's the battle of our lives. Yeah. And as we learned from the Liverpool dispute, that if we organize, if we are coordinated, they have fear from us. They hate us, but we hate them too. Yeah. And that's true. So what do you think about all this shit that they are creating about automated terminal, robotization, and all this stuff?
Well, a couple of things on this. Firstly, I'm going to say this to the ship owners. We're going to make the attacks on dock workers the world over your problem. We're going to make it their problem. They have driven these agendas. The stevedore companies, the waterfront companies use the excuses about efficiency. Automation is not efficient. All the evidence is out. It's costly, it drives up cost, and that only means our communities have to pay it. The system's broken, but we're going to make the ship owners responsible. They have a responsibility. So when it comes to not just bargaining, we're going to campaign. There's a number of factors. Automation is an attack on our right to work. It's an attack on our communities, and it delivers nothing for the nations that we live in. It delivers profits for the very rich at the expense of the many.
And funding companies.
Yeah. What drives this as well is the attack on our job security. We have the attack on, with the job security, casualisation. These are all factors. Now, with the global movement of dockers, we have mobilised. We've shown since the Liverpool dockers lockout 95 what we are prepared to do and what we are capable of. So it's a message to the ship owners first. They can get fucked. It's their problem now. And when automation comes to any docks, like it has in Australia, and in Australia disproportionately, we are the highest, it's the greatest attack on our membership in the contemporary, in the modern day. And I've said it's the ship owners now that have to pay the price. The stevedore companies, we will never forgive, and we will never accept automation. As a branch secretary of the Sydney branch, MUA, I will never accept automation. That doesn't mean we're not in struggle. Of course we are. But we've seen what dockers can do. Our great mates in the ILA, Harold and his bargaining team, are dealing with the ship owners around this very issue now, dealing with the waterfront companies over this very issue now. And their conviction, their militancy is something to behold, and something that we celebrate collectively, dockers around the world. But the thing about this is we have a saying as dockers. We have a number of sayings, but you touch one, you touch all. An injury to one is an injury to all. And if the ship owners, if the stevedore companies think that they are able to take on the global dockers movement, they will be moved on. We will not ever relent. Now, what does agreements, contracts look like? Contracts look like sitting at the table and getting an agreement with our unions and with the IDC. If you want war, we'll give it to you. It'll damage your business and we don't care. We will defend our interest. That's what we stand for. And as we build this movement, as we bring in and strengthen and lift up our brothers and our comrades in Africa, in South America, in Asia, in the north end of the world, we will never relent until we deliver that dignity of life and work that every dock worker deserves. So bring it on. We'll take you on. That's our message. And the one thing we've got that the bosses class, the ship owners, the stevedore companies will never have, we have solidarity. We never walk alone. So that is our story, and a story that we will continue to tell, organise on, and build.
I remember in the ILA dispute in the strike, is somebody, I think it was Ken Raleigh, told me, when diplomacy fails, militancy prevails, and that's all. At the end, that's all. And
That's all.
And I think that if you see the global dock workers movement together with ITF, a lot of good relationship at that time, I'm so proud of the moment that we are. I think we're ready to fight whatever challenge we have. And we have big challenge now, like in Canada, in Vancouver, coming also in the local 273 in St. John. Here with the QBT dispute, with the CFMU, the automation. We have a lot of challenges, but a lot of answers too, a lot of attacks. And also I'm very proud of the team that we are creating around IDC, of course, and then under the leading of Dennis. IDC is going up. It's crazy. Sometimes we sit Dennis and myself and say, wow, the Chinese or the Japanese or people that ask for help that we never expect. And also then Cesar, Ken Raleigh, Pierre, Mark, Andy, Bobby, Ed, there are a group of people that are following the path from Christy, from Paddy, of course, from Willie. So what do you think? We are in one of the best moments to have this answer to the shipping lines.
I think what I agree. We find ourselves, it's quite an extraordinary time because we have this collective leadership, global leadership in our movement, our dockers movement, of some of the most courageous, toughest, principled leaders. And I'm very proud to be in this time and part of this growing movement. We have a lot of challenges. Kenny Riley is just a stalwart of our movement. He's led from the front his whole life. lived his life for justice for working men and women, working class people, dockers, and his own membership. And what he said about, when we find ourselves in these struggles, we find something else in us. And I think that's really the very essence of what Dockers and who we are. We've got a great struggle in our union. Everybody knows us as the MUA. But our national union's the CFMEU, and the M in CFMEU is the MUA. And we find ourselves at a time unlike any time in Australia's modern history, where we've got a government that has brought in a law to sack 270 elected officials, delegates of the construction and general division of our union, and put in government-appointed administrators. There is no law like this where natural justice has been removed. And why? We know why. Because this government and what we see around the world, other governments, they don't like this form of trade unionism. We're dockers, so it's in our DNA. We fight. We fight for each other, we fight for our communities, and we fight for workers across the world. We've been, from the MUA's perspective, very humbled by the solidarity from across the world in relation to our struggle. The MUA could be taken over by the administrator. This is the reach. The administrator works with impunity, removing all the leadership, the exile leaders of our union, of the construction and general division. They might be sacked, but they are the legitimate leaders democratically elected by the rank and file. We are a rank and file led union, both our construction and maritime divisions. So we are in the trenches. What's given our membership in construction a lot of hope is that the IDC were the first to come to our support. Yourself, straight away, Dennis, and the statements that come out. Harold from the ILA, Willie Adams from the ILW, and a great many comrades from around the world. And what we're fighting is the right to have a union that defends the interests of the working class. We have a saying in Australia as well. When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. We have bad laws in Australia, industrial laws, very bad. They constrain the right for the workers and unions to effectively look after the interests of the workers. Yet the employers are able to manufacture disputes. As you know, the Hutchison lockout. You were the first to come to our aid. We will never, ever forget that. And it was in that struggle that the Sydney branch, along with the Queensland branch, the MUA, joined the IDC. Because why? It was dockers coming to our defence. And we couldn't have done it. We couldn't have won that. We can never, none of us, no union, can do this alone. We wouldn't have won that dispute if it wasn't for that solidarity. If it wasn't for the solidarity of unions, and if it wasn't for the solidarity of dock workers and the IDC across the world. And we did win. We'll win this fight against this Labor government in Australia that's removed our leaders. We will fight until they are reinstated and the union is back in the hands of the rank and file. We will never surrender. And that's a motto from the Sydney branch of the MUA. We will never surrender.
Do you have the feeling that sometimes I don't know, at least I can explain like in Spanish. No, sometimes the Conservative Party have more fear to attack the workers than the Socialist Party. At least in Europe it happens, and it's something that I'm seeing in Australia, that Labour Party, that it should be our allies, at least, no, our friends. We have no friends on the politics, of course, are worse than the Labour. That's crazy.
It's the same in Australia. The fact is, it seems to be the politics today in 2024 is upended. The Conservative parties in Australia, Conservative government, would never have done this because they would have been too fearful. Yet we have a so-called Social Democratic Party in government that has passed a bill that we're fighting that bill. We believe that it is constitutionally illegal. So we're going to fight, but the fight is much longer than that. We've gone to our communities. We've gone to the trade union movement. Unions are waking up. I should say that the Council of Trade Unions in Australia and the leader, Sally McManus, has turned her back on those values, those core trade union values, turned her back on our union. History will not be kind to Sally. With the Labor government in power, the Prime Minister Albanese, history will not be kind to him. His days are numbered. And all I know is the solidarity of working class communities, the international movement of the working class, and this great organisation of ours, which is in my heart, in my soul, and in the soul of our membership and dockers of the world, this mighty IDC. Together we'll find our way through this struggle. And I say this to the politicians in Australia and to the bosses and to the building companies. We will be more militant on the other side of this struggle. We will be stronger, and we will never forgive those that brought this on us.
Yeah, I could be talking with you a lot of hours, but I will...
You're my great mate. We could speak for hours, and I'd love to.
I will make the last question. No, it's not the last question. I want to ask you to address to the people that is watching the podcast and tell you have the open mic. The same that I told to Bobby. You have the open mic. You can address to the people, also to the rats that are on the companies that hate us, and we hate them, of course. You can address everybody and always like an inspiring message.
Okay, well,
I know that you.
All right. Well,
I know that you will do. You are Irish.
I'll just speak from the heart.
Yeah, I know.
And what we believe. If any ship owner thinks that they're going to go to war with any dock worker, they go to war with the dock workers of the world, and we will damage your company. We will drive you out. You want to go to war with us, we'll give you a war, and it will never end. We will defend our interest to the very member, to the very rank and file that we depend on. We will always win, and we will always persevere, and we will come after you so they can get fucked. For the stevedore, waterfront companies who think they can exploit, which they do, exploit workers, we're coming after you. And one by one, we'll take you on. To the dockers of the world, our affiliates, these great, wonderful comrades from Uruguay, our great mates, Chile, and right across Europe, and down here. This is our part of the world. Our solidarity is our strength. Our unity in struggle is our strength. And with that, we fight for that dignity, we fight for peace, and we fight for a belief that all workers deserve the humanity that we believe in. So we will never walk alone. Coming out of the roots of Liverpool, which I am so proud of my history. But I'm more proud of being a working class man, a staunch and proud trade unionist, and member of this mighty union of ours, the MUA, Maritime Union of Australia, and our great national office, the CFMEU. So we'll be doing it together, my dear old mate.
Yeah.
We've known each other a long time.
Yeah,
we'll be
100%.
fighting the bosses together.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul, for us can make you an interview. It's not just for the present, it's for the future, for the next generations to learn what I learned from you, because you are an inspiration for everybody, but for me especially. For that reason, we call each other, I think, every Monday morning at 7 a.m.
We do.
It's 7 a.m. in Spain. It's 7 a.m. 7 p.m.
That's right.
In Australia.
Well, we stay in touch. We're very close. You got your family, your nephew, and his girlfriend over in Australia. The family.
Yeah.
So I've had them at my place. They're now enjoying Bondi and all that young generation. Wonderful family. We're the Dockers. We have, like I said, we have two families. We have our own family, and then we have the Dockers.
Family. So that's all. The interesting interview for today from the podcast, the IDC Podcast on the Waterfront. Thank you for watching, and remember that if we are together,
we can never fail.
We can never fail. Thank you, Paul.